Oh, hey, Dom Salvucci.
Hey, Eric Verno, how you doing?
I'm doing well, big dog. How are you doing?
Still licking my wounds from no playoffs for my Steelers this year. We came close, but there was another team that kind of snuck in.
Hey, man, you know what? Now, listen, the bottom line is the first week you were lonely. Now, this week, there's room on the couch for both of us. You know what I'm
Yep.
saying? Like,
Hey,
we're
I
all
was rooting
watching
for
this.
you guys. I was rooting for the Finns.
Listen, I wanted a good game. I got a good game. It was a great game. But
Yeah.
honestly, to that next level, they're not there yet. This is kind of the downfall. I think every year they've had a new coach, they've made the playoffs. Had they gone much further? Not so much. So kind of crazy. But yeah, so
Yeah.
in my stir craziness, I worked on trying to fix up the studio a little bit and adjust some lights and get some things together here and try to didn't quite get the beard shaved off or anything, so I didn't go too drastic, just a little bit of stuff. But
Yeah, I
but
was
yeah,
impressed.
so
I was impressed because it wasn't your first string quarterback, wasn't your second string quarterback,
true
but it
story.
was your third string
I
quarterback.
know.
Made a game of it. I was
It,
impressed.
and the crazy thing is he was drafted he was the quarterback drafted right before Mr. Irrelevant,
Irrelevant.
Mr. Purdy, kicking butt with the Niners. So doing some amazing stuff. But so how's the weather? We're kind of getting sogged out here in the eastern part of the state. How about you guys?
We had that earlier today. We dried out, had some sunshine. It was scary for a bit. I walked outside and there was this bright orb in the sky. I was like, whoa. And we're supposed to get snow, a little bit of snow tonight. I think the back end of the front's coming through. So we won't be a fid day like we talked about last show. But
Right?
we get a little snow coming, which isn't
Okay.
bad. It's nice. We lucked out because we'll talk about it later in the show. This past week we had the TRETSI, Three Rivers Educational Technology Conference, and last year, while my Steelers were getting trounced
Yeah.
on television, the snow was coming down, and I got snowed out. I didn't make it down to Pittsburgh. So
Gotcha. Yeah.
the weather, I'll take it. It's semi-spring,
Oh,
fall
well,
weather, early spring weather. I could live with this.
well, you said it was really bright out. Going outside, you didn't see your shadow or anything and run back in or anything like that. Like no.
No, we're not
Oh,
going to
okay,
get
okay.
6 more
Okay.
weeks.
All right, okay. We're not gonna get into the predictions here. Okay, that's not
No
what our show's
predictions on
about.
that because
Okay.
my predictions
All right.
haven't been so good.
We're getting close though. I mean, we're getting close to
Yeah,
that time where Phil becomes king and the whole world watches, man. So
I know.
that's good stuff. Well, hey, man, we got a lot of things going on. Life's going well. We're rolling. My daughters are getting finals and all that jazz, and rolling. And we're in the middle of our second trimester going through school. But I think you're here. I'm here. I think it's time we kind of do something. What do you think?
I think so. I think it's about time for the PAECT pod.
Let's crank it. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the PAECT pod. This is episode 19. Can you believe that?
It's been a great run.
Oh man, I keep waiting for the hook. Like, who's coming to like yank us off like the Gong Show? You know what I mean?
Yep. There's like someone sneaking into the back room, like Fred Claus, where he flips the switch and all of a sudden the power goes out.
Yeah, we don't. Hey, hold on, knock on wood. We don't want any of that happen. None of that tonight. So we got PACT pod. We got. I'm Eric Verno. I have the pleasure of being the vice president of PACT, and my co-host.
I'm Dom Salvucci. I'm honored to be the regional director for the Southwest region of PAECT.
And it's truly a blessing. It's truly awesome for us to be able to bring you this pod every third Thursday of the month. And this is our first pod of 2023.
Yes.
Now,
This,
unofficially,
yeah.
we had some unofficial little commercials we kind of did, getting ready for KTI pre-con before Pete and C, getting some stuff ready. And so we were working on a little bit of those shows, but this is our first official pod of the new year. So it's exciting stuff. And man, we're going bigger, better, and we're following a golden rule of mine. When you're venturing into new territory, find somebody smarter than you,
Yes.
right? You know what I'm
Yes,
saying?
yes, yes.
Whew. So we had to truly reach out. I mean, there's been a lot going on. I mean, obviously we got, you know, all the excitement going on at Twitter. We've got all stuff going on in technology, let alone education technology. And I tell you, there's you got teachers that they're shaken if they're not understanding it. They're excitedly quaking if they do understanding it, if they do understand it. But AI and education, man, it's kind of interesting what's going on, don't you think?
Yeah, very much so. I know when I caught some things that were going on, I was like, "Ooh, check this out," and I started playing with it. Zipped out an email to our superintendent, like, "Hey, did you hear about this?" And he was just like, "Oh, we have to see what's I heard about it. That we're going to be optimistically cautious, and let's see what's going on." And of course, I started playing with stuff, and I'm like, "Hey, I didn't break anything yet, but nothing came into the school network. But here's what I was playing with, and I got
Mhm.
the slow down. It's early in the morning.
Yeah.
Hit me with the emails later. Let me have my coffee first." Like, okay, like a
You
little
had too
dog
many
with my
coffees.
tail wagging. Like, oh, check
That's
this
funny.
out.
I know, a new tool, a new tool. So we're going to invite on our first guest of the new year,
Yes,
and we got Jessica Barberry is going to be coming on. So real quick before we pull her on the show, she is a awesome member of PACT.
she
She's
is.
actually currently the secretary for the PACT's out of state region, which they're doing such an awesome job.
Mhm.
She was a proud lead learner and hoping to possibly become a lead learner again. So she's a lead learner alum, and for the KTI program, which we love so much. And last year she did a great job talking about knowing AI, knowing virtual stuff. She ran our virtual summit. She killed it.
Yes.
And
Go ahead.
oh, well, let me finish up, man. Listen, this is the longest intro we have. That's why I said
Well,
we went
let
to the
me
top shelf.
let me put in a little plug before we do the intro, because this intro is going to take a while,
Uh
and I
oh.
don't want to take the thunder
Uh oh.
out of
Here
the
we go.
intro, because just because you're not in Pennsylvania physically doesn't mean you can't be a member of PAECT, the Pennsylvania Association for Educational Communications and Technology. Jess was in PA. She moved out of state, and she's still a member. We have the out of state region for a reason. We could use you, and it's a great network. So just because you're not physically in PA doesn't mean you can't be a member. I just wanted to put that plug in.
All right, listen, Don, we're paying her by the hour. Okay, we gotta slow
Oh,
down. We
sorry.
gotta get her in
We'll,
here. All right, all
we'll
right.
cut this
So
out.
she's a former special ed teacher from Pennsylvania. Had a great opportunity. Speaking of the Finns, she got to go hang out, and she's in the area of Miami. So she's in Southern Florida. She's working as the director of learning operations for the Design Ed Thinking School of South Florida, and she's recently accepted a project management position with the Spruce Systems to help build a future where people can control their own data and identity online. So let's
Wow.
go ahead and let's work on inviting Jess to the stage. Hey,
Hey,
hey, hey,
Hey,
welcome.
Jess.
hey. Oh man, listen, thank you for that intro. And Dom, thank you for letting everybody know you don't have to be a resident in Pennsylvania to be a part of PAECT. Can we just brag a little bit about some of the incredible opportunities PAECT
Definitely.
has to offer? Like, this is why I think I am a better person because of PAECT, just as a whole in general. So there you go. There's plug number one.
Oof. Listen, that's the second check I got to send out, Dom. All right, we're on number two. She's working it. She's racking it up. She's racking it up. I love it.
I
No,
understood
it's
the
We can
assignment.
really.
we can edit,
it,
so we only pay her for the edited time on screen. Not
okay, but those people watching live, please don't keep record of this in public. All right. All right. Well, so we brought you on. The episode is to the metaverse and beyond. So
Yes.
talking about all things metaverse. I know there's that word meta being used, and we'll talk a little bit about that as well. But there's so much going on. You got I think the mainline like right now is Chat GPT, all the different things going on in the back end, but there's really so much going on with different tech companies. I know Microsoft's been involved in putting some money into what the Chat GPT runs on the open AI system, and all those different things. But the smartest thing I can do this evening is to step out of the way. All right. First, we'll Don. Why don't you start off with our first question?
yes. One thing I learned: instructional design for online learning and education. Everyone has to speak the same terminology, use the same terms. So let's go to the very back basics. What is the metaverse?
Yeah. Well, don't your toes curl just a little bit? when you hear the word metaverse, doesn't it though?
Is
And
it
the,
is it similar to what Facebook was talking about?
I would say it is similar. It is definitely similar. The metaverse can be explained as a three-dimensional environment, a bunch of three-dimensional connected environments online where people can come together as avatars synchronously and do stuff, whether that's for school or for work or for fun. And as Eric was saying, there have been so many leaps forward in technology that make existing in these spaces so much more interesting or so much more fun, or you can learn in these spaces. So people are taking courses as avatars in these spaces from reputable universities. People are earning in these spaces from reputable companies. I'm sure many of your students are playing games and earning through their games, even if these games have their own in-game currency like Minecraft. That still counts. So there is an awful lot of investigation, wonder, and building to be done. And really what we want to do is we want to try to pull in as many people as possible into these spaces so it can be built for good. Let's use our powers for good, people. So that's why we want to invite you into these spaces and join it. We don't want to build it without you. So much of the internet has been built without a lot of voices, and we don't want to do it without you.
As to go with that point, that's like with a lot of things. If you don't understand it and you're nervous of it and you shy away, what you could have brought to that platform, to that scenario, you've now eliminated because you pulled yourself out of it. So if a lot of teachers get out of it, not a lot of teaching is going to occur with it, right? You want to make sure that we're involved. Nice.
And I wouldn't recommend adopting anything uncritically. So you really need to, number one, think about, hey, is this going to be good for what my students need it to do, for what I need it to do? I mean, we have an awful lot of professionals who are in education who are also training other adults, other professionals too, in addition to training students. So, we have an awful lot of learners in our midst here now that education is taking their own leap forwards. And we have an awful lot of missing professionals too. We have a lot of missing special educators. We have a lot of missing school psychologists and school counselors. And I have to say, I know we're supposed to be talking about virtual worlds and the metaverse, but hey, I think it's connected. I have to say that I really appreciate a lot of schools latching onto esports. I think the research is kind of on our side that says things like, hey, video games can actually be helpful and instructive and therapeutic, and you can create positive collaborative atmosphere and competition, around these types of activities. And perhaps you should.
I like how you said, bringing people in so we can build it for good, because PAECT, another plug for PAECT, has a book study going on, Digital for Good by Richard Collada. And our discussion last night was, when the internet came out, there weren't a lot of voices and rules were never really put in. So now that, it's a Wild West free for all, it's hard to rein everything in. So if you get that, the forces of good in there to kind of set up a framework, and even if it's informally to kind of use, I don't want to say peer pressure, but set up a code of conduct, getting into the ground floor, it's easier to go that way than it is to have all heck break loose and then try and rein it back in.
Yeah, I agree. And also too, not just the conversation of, hey, have we invited all the right voices to the table? Have we opened it up enough to start talking about, hey, who built the table? Who is that table built for? And then are we going to remake that a little bit? And that's the hope. So there are two ways you can think about the future of the internet. And a lot of people are thinking about all of these connected three-dimensional virtual environments are going to be the future of the internet, how we all interact. Now, we're not there yet, by the way. We're not there yet. So there's what it is now, and then there's the dream. And what it is now is an awful lot of disparate and unconnected places that you can go and create three-dimensional environments. And I would be remiss if I didn't say that there is a training that we are conducting the out-of-state PAECT, out-of-state, out-of-state region. Sorry. It's hard to say out-of-state region because it's like the rest of the world.
Right.
It's like, oh, is it a region? Is it the world? It's the world. It's the rest of the world. But we're conducting a training about how anyone, meaning like whoever is an educator. And when we say educator, we mean that in a very general sense. Anyone who mentors anyone else and has something to teach, but you have this distance between you, number one, and you can't get together in a room. Number two, what you want to teach is way too expensive to actually pull it into the room with you, or it's something you want to teach, something that might be impossible to do. Like maybe you want to go walk on Mars, or maybe you want to show topographically what the world or a part of the world might look like without bees. Like you want to do some things that maybe you can't actually do or shouldn't try to do. And we're running this training to show any educator, hey, here are some simple tools, free or at least very, very cheap, that you can build with and make something awesome for your learners and meet your learners' needs. Free and awesome. I'm like, come on.
Yep. So I figured I'd put it up on the screen here. We have the flyer that was created, right? The Immersive Learning Design. Join the global group of presenters and build a virtual environment for your classroom. So wanted to share that, give that a shout out. We'll make sure we plug it. Definitely excited for that. Definitely. So it is January 25th, 2023. So is it the registration is through the PAECT website, correct?
It sure is.
Yes.
It sure is.
All right.
And like Dom said, like you don't have to be a member, a resident in Pennsylvania to come to this training. You do have to be a member of PAECT, but all is not lost. You can become a member wherever you are, whoever you are, and come, please come. So yeah,
yep. You can be a free member or a premium member, I believe, correct?
You got it.
Awesome.
You got
All
it.
right. All right. So let's kind of look at this. So I know when I was in college, I was kind of creating the education technology, kind of like that's what I wanted to do when I was doing a master's program, and it didn't exist back then as I had the gray hairs. And, so I was trying to forging new roads kind of a thing. This is a whole other ball game. So my question to you is like, when I was looking at that, I just saw like the powers of computers and how you could use it in tech. So, what led you down this path of like learning more about it, even using it? Like what led you down this path of the metaverse, the content, and the tools? Like, what took you there?
Yeah. Did you guys always know that you were going to go into education?
I had a pretty good idea.
You
I was split between two topics, two majors.
What about you?
That's wonderful. I never thought ever I would get into education. I thought education was so boring. I felt so bad for my teachers. I'm like, I'm never going to do that. And then I was a part of a children's theater program in college. And what we did is we tricked students into learning science. We called it a theater program, and we came in and we did acting workshops, but really we were teaching students about biomes and about life cycles and processes. And we were doing that from, let's say, the Earth's surface all the way into the cosmos. We were instructing students what the world looks like as the Earth revolves around the sun. And when I say acting workshops, like we were having students act out processes. And so they created out of, tinfoil and pipe cleaners and whatever else they could find, cardboard. They created their own sets, their own costumes. We took a whole day in these schools that we would go to as a theater troupe, to teach acting classes. And teachers would also have like curricular crosswalks into science about what they could do for the rest of the day. And at the end of the school day, or near the end of the school day, we would have the big show. And the big show was all of the grade levels, usually from first grade to fifth grade, or if we were in like middle school and high schools. Now, keep in mind in Pennsylvania, not just in Pennsylvania, but we were going into New Jersey and to New York, and how they chopped up their grades from elementary to middle school and high school was a little different by state. But usually the youngers were like, the little woodchucks, and the older students were comets, they were stars, they were constellations, they were planets. And at the end of the day, we would all come back and gather together, whether that was in the gymnasium or their multi-purpose room or whatever it was called. And we would act out science. We would act out the world together. And we invited the parents, we invited community members. And oftentimes what this would look like is, depending on where we were, what state, there would be like the state bird would be represented, or special natural landmarks would be represented. So we did an awful lot of immersive learning in real life. And you know what I found, and maybe you guys did too, tricking students into learning something is really the best way to teach them something. Make sure they're having some fun, make sure that they can have a little bit of creativity, but also making it meaningful to where they live, where they are. Why should they care? Making those connections early and getting them involved in that learning. And that's what led me down the path basically into, well, how else can we do immersive learning? And that's where I stumbled upon exceptional student education and special education. Wow, we can actually instruct in the community. What a great idea. That's awesome. We can actually do these things for students. We can make it practical and we can individualize it to whatever it is that they need. Like, wow, this was not what I saw, when I was a student. I didn't see that.
Yeah.
Maybe you
And
guys
I go back
did.
to
Maybe
well, you had those sparks, right? You had that teacher that did that and made it real. And my 6th grade teacher, Mr. Slur, was kind of like that, and he would just he did trips, and so his social studies class was him showing like pictures of his trips to all these different countries that the other classes were reading out of the book. We were seeing his his slide deck, the old school the Kodak slide deck going,
That's cool.
and
Yeah.
up on the screen. So, but I go back in college. I read Alfred Mercier. Alfred Mercier had this quote. It said, "What you learn with pleasure, you'll never forget." And like I always try to remember
Oh,
that. and think
that's
about that.
so
Like,
good.
I tell my students, like, if there's ever a point where they're bored, I'm probably bored, and they need to let me know because I'm not doing something right. And like I want to make it a fun, enjoyable experience, because that's really what it's about. Yeah. All right. What do we have on the
still
dock? What do you
thinking
think,
about
Dom?
that. I'm still thinking about
Oh.
that. What you learn with pleasure, you will never forget. You will never. That is so good, Eric. That is so good.
And the science backs that up.
Mhm.
You get into
It's science, friends. It's
Well,
science.
you connecting, building the neural pathways. Hard for me
Ooh,
to
big
say
word.
this time of night. So going back to the metaverse, I'm going to kind of combine 2 questions with this. How do you see this metaverse being utilized by teachers, educators? And is it something that individual teachers can do, or should it be like a school-wide or grade level? I mean,
Yeah, I mean,
how,
I think first things first. We talked about this a little bit before, that you should really try before you buy. And what we're going to be talking about, not just today, but also at the training, is stuff you don't have to buy. We're going to be talking about 2 tools that you can use where if you don't have goggles, you don't need them. If you just have a browser, that's all you need. Because really, I think what a lot of teachers and a lot of schools are looking for is they're looking for tools that are easy to learn, and you can kind of just go out of the box, so to speak. And if there isn't a box that you have to buy, that's even better. So to begin, just explore, pick a tool and explore it. Mozilla Hubs is very popular. It's a very popular virtual world, and they have a very active and helpful builder community. And I know they're probably going into software as a service, Mozilla Hubs is, but they're not quite there yet. So there's still a lot of stuff that you can do there for free. What we're going to take a look at during our training on the 25th is a tool called GatherTown. And GatherTown is not a 3-dimensional environment. It's a 2-dimensional environment that you can go in as an avatar. It looks kind of like The Legend of Zelda. And the interesting part about that is sometimes worlds that are not as hard for devices to render, like when you have a 3-dimensional world, that really takes a toll on the brain of your device. And if you're using older devices, things get weird. Stuff gets choppy. You get kicked out, stuff like that. So it's nice to have a variety of different tools based on, hey, what tools do I have in the classroom that I can use? Like what's going to be easiest, an easy on-ramp for my students, And what do I want to use? So we'll talk about GatherTown. We'll talk a little bit about Mozilla Hubs. There's another tool called Frame VR that's very similar to Mozilla Hubs in that it's a 3-dimensional environment, and you can like enter into that world through a browser. And Eric, if you want to go, I don't know if you can, but I did put together a compilation of different virtual worlds that maybe teachers would be interested in. You may want to mute the sound. It sounds a little loud.
Okay. All right. I have it muted. I didn't know if you wanted it with sound or without.
Oh yeah, with that would be
Fine.
great.
All right, you can kind of talk us through it.
Yeah. So here is a world that I built for my previous school in Frame. We had our teachers' offices in here. Now, don't forget, this was during COVID. So we put our names on the walls, a little bit about us. We had classes here with our students. And what you can't see, oh, now you can see it, is that you look like these little guys or girls, or you can look like a robot as well, if you'd prefer. And you can put things like you see on the table that says ISTE. If you were in this frame or in this virtual world, you could literally click on that and you could go to the ISTE standards if you wanted. So you can embed stuff. You can embed videos. You can embed all kinds of neat stuff in this tool. So we use this for
being used there.
Yeah, Jamboard. Yeah, so you can cast your screen just like you can in a Zoom environment. Now, this is what GatherTown looks like. And this is a space that was custom built for a nonprofit teacher organization that I'm a proud member of called ED3 DAO. This is their Ed3 verse. This is where we go for networking events. These are teachers from all over the globe. And we talk about how we can, change the world, make it a better place. Okay, Mozilla Hubs. You can
That's where Dom and I would get kicked out. We have to sing.
Yes.
My friend Anthony and I, he's a teacher from Kodiak, Alaska. We ran a training in Mozilla Hubs. And this is, like I said, very similar to Frame, but this might be a little bit better for students because they have a real vibrant builder community. And you can use you can find their code snippets. So if your students were into coding and they wanted to create 3D objects, they could use something called A-frame in order to do that. And the Mozilla Hubs community, I mean, they're big into that, and they'll show you what it looks like. And when I say you, like I said before, I would encourage teachers, if you really think this will be good for some of your students, get in there, take a look. Like you can just go to gathertown.com and you can just make an account and look around. You don't have to buy anything. Same with Mozilla. You can just go there and walk around and see what it's like. No one else will be in there. You can go to like private spots, your own spot. I know when people say things like Metaverse, you're getting this idea that you're entering into a world where other people inhabit. And the tools that we're going to be using are tools that you can create and you can invite people inside to inhabit, if that makes sense. It's probably an important distinction.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're really excited. We're really excited to bring, like I said, more teachers in because we really want to make these spaces functional for students and their needs, That's the big takeaway.
All right, so here's my question for you. So
all right,
I'm big into blogs, finding good sources, pulling that information in. I'll be talking about some different things today during our tech notes. So obviously, I mean, the most obvious answer to this is joining the Immersive Learning Design class and the workshop you're going to be doing. That's going to be a great source for us to learn more. But where do you feel is a great place for educators to find more information about this? Is there like a central organization that's putting out a lot of information? Is there a place to go? What would you recommend?
Absolutely. I mean, the ED3 DAO, and DAO stands for Decentralized Autonomous Organization. They are dedicated to teacher and administrator development around the world around topics like the metaverse, around topics like artificial intelligence, around topics that include blockchain and learner and employment records that students and adults own. They're talking now about self-sovereign identities. A lot of the work that I'm doing with Spruce Systems Inc. now is all about, hey, how can we take back some of the data that Google has now, that Facebook has now? How can I make it my own rather than having to give it away so I can enter these places. And we know what now we know, now we know that since we've done that, these larger companies are making a lot of money that they're not giving to us, by the way, off our information, and they're able to manipulate it in a way that does not have our permission. So how do we change that? What can we do to change that? I'm not a techie. I'm not a web developer. Like, what can I do? And these are the conversations that we're having. As a matter of fact, I run a weekly talk every Saturday inside the DAO community. We exist inside Discord, and I run a weekly talk. And this week we talk about esports, like how to get started. Like, a lot of schools are really investing their time. When I say investing, I mean time. A lot of time in understanding, hey, how can I put this together? And when I do, is it going to be worth it? And you can come to a talk like this and ask people who've done it. Ask people from like Chicago, ask people from Bahrain who've done it. And they're like, yeah, here's what we did. Maybe it'll help you. Maybe it won't. And it's so wonderful to feel like you're not alone. And I think PAECT does that for us too, don't you?
Oh, definitely.
All right.
So to follow up on Eric's question,
Yeah.
So that's, I signed up for your webinar next week. I'm looking forward to it. And I go through our research. I sit in on some of these Saturday sessions, do some reading and whatnot, and I have an idea what I'm doing. Obviously, I have to start building something on my own. But once I get that going, how do you roll this out into like the classroom?
Like your school? Are you really going to do it? Yeah. So the reason why we are as judicious as we can be about providing not just more than one source, but making sure that it's free, is that every school, even schools within a district, they have different policies, procedures, and protocols when it comes to like, hey, is this allowed? Like, is this kind of thing allowed in my school, privacy wise, network wise? I know at my old school, Centennial School of Lehigh University, we kind of had to get a special pass to allow Steam in our school, because we had a HTC Vive, we had one of the goggle thingies, and it used Steam in order to like generate some of these three-dimensional environments. And because we were kind of locked down, and many schools are, because you have to be, got to be better to be safe than sorry. But because we were locked down, we had to get special permission to use it. But I think that's the point. The point is, if you as a practitioner believe this is going to be a powerful tool, it's going to be easier for you to make the case of, hey, for this duration of this project, or for the duration of this quarter for this class, here's what we'd like to use. If it's not permitted, how can I get it permitted? And come at it from that direction. If you enter into the conversation saying, hey, I want to use this tool and it's not allowed, I don't know what it does, what do you say? It's going to be, no. That makes sense. Did that answer this question, Dom? Or are you saying like, hey, how do I know what to build?
Well, kind of like both ways, because I know, like, from my standpoint, I know the process I have to get through to get the checks. I've been there for a long time. But, building forward, that's that tact. Once I have the permission to go in and do what I need to do, how do you move forward from there?
Yeah. So the first thing that I was, let's say we took care of all that and bam, it's done. The next thing that I would do is, because I know the majority of educators are teaching students that are neurodiverse, and they're probably on a teaching team with speech and language therapists, or they have a special educator who's a co-teacher, or they have a team of individuals that they are working with. I would suggest going into these spaces together and brainstorming how it could work for the students that they have to serve. That would be my first suggestion. Although it wouldn't hurt if you were to go in individually on your own and wonder also as you were walking around, hey, I wonder if I could build this. Hey, I wonder if I could actually show the life cycle of X, or if I could actually show how osmosis works here, and we could walk through it ourselves in this virtual learning environment. I wonder if that would be better than just watching a static video. I wonder if that would be better than just reading about it, in online or what have you. And wonder about, hey, how can I make these experiences that are processes, how can I make them more interesting? Especially too, like if you're an English teacher, talk about processes. There's a whole writing process. Now I know we've got AI to talk about, well, maybe another podcast, but as of right now, the writing process is still instructed. It can be easier. Hey, you got to diagram a sentence. It's easier to physically do that in some of these worlds. It's a process. So that's what I would say. Go in and start wondering. And then after you come up with a couple ideas, get ready for your students to get into these places. But of course, just like in real life, make sure you are working with them and teaching them what the interaction should look like and should be in these spaces. Depending on the age of your kids, your students have probably already been in virtual environments and have been kind of naughty. So there's probably some unlearning that may need to come along with the learning, if that makes sense. And it's always good to tackle that first.
Yeah. A lot of times that we kind of have to take that forefront of doing a lot of those things, right? Teaching them how to do it, model it, and show those.
Yeah. And let them play, like give them, like, for example, don't expect to, when you do that, don't expect to open up these worlds and go, all right, it's time to learn, kiddies. Like, just give them some time to really explore and put things in the space, if you think that's appropriate, of course, for your learners, and to start to wonder themselves and ask you questions. Because then what happens, what will be really cool, is they'll say, hey, Mr. Salvucci, hey, Mr. V, can we go back into X and do this thing with X? And maybe you didn't think of that. And you might go, yeah, thanks for planning the lesson. You got it.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. All right. So go, Dom.
No, getting their perspective is important. I always, regardless of whether it's in a virtual world or the regular classroom, I always try and get feedback from them and implement some of the things they come up with.
Yeah. And also these places are really great for school-wide events. If you're doing a science fair, or if you were doing some sort of school event where maybe everyone getting together in person isn't appropriate, or perhaps people can't travel, to be there for different reasons, like that may be a way to also invite the families into knowing, hey, this is a tool that we're thinking about using with students. This is what it is. This is what it isn't. For example, when you say virtual worlds, we're creating a safe space ourselves. We're not yet opening it up to the world. And you probably wouldn't want to do that without making sure everybody's on the same page.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So, all right. So here we go. As you've delved into this, right? As you're researching this, obviously it's ongoing. Is there anything that you could pick out or even share, like, as you were, whether it's early stages, whether it's current, whether it was yesterday, that just surprised you? Something that popped.
Yeah. So I was using, so I was using Frame VR with an elementary class, like young elementary students. We're talking like 7, 8 years old. And the students decided that they wanted to, because what we were doing at the Design Ed Thinking School is, instead of having parent teacher conferences, what we were doing is we were flipping that idea, and we were having students present some kind of learning journey that they were very proud of for that semester. And so it was kind of like a student learning party, and the students would plan it, and they would invite their families, they would invite the teacher to come, and they would demonstrate whatever project or item that they built. And so our class wanted to have it inside one of these virtual worlds. So we did. We built the environment for the parents to come into. They inputted their projects. We were putting an awful lot of project and products on Seesaw. Don't know if you all are familiar with Seesaw, but inside Seesaw, you can generate a QR code. So for individuals who have access to that Seesaw account, you can scan the QR code and you can see the project on your phone. So that was really cool. So we had people who were attending on their laptop, and if they had a QR code scanner on their device, they could scan it. I mean, it was so much fun. and nobody was in the room together. And I think that was like my first aha moment. Like, wow, this really can work. Because before it was like theory, you know. Dom, you talked earlier about Second Life, right?
Yes.
We all know what it's like to engage in, many of us know what it's like to engage in different types of virtual environments, even if it's video games, what that's like in a synchronous environment. And it's not necessarily something that I would call life-changing, but this experience with students and with families was because we could see the relationship being built in real time. And that was so cool. And we weren't even in the room together. So it's possible. It's possible. Now, I will say this. I would not and do not encourage using virtual environments in lieu of doing something in the physical world if you can. Like, for example, I'm in South Florida, and it's a thing. We're very close to the beach. It's a thing to watch the excavation of sea turtle nests. My locality takes conservation very seriously, and it is a learning experience to go to the beach with your class and to talk about sea turtles and to watch sea turtles hatch. Now, I would do that. I would take my class there instead of saying, hey, let's do it in a virtual world. But maybe Eric or Dom, maybe you guys don't have that where you are. Maybe you can't take your class to the beach unless you had, you know, a lot of money and a lot of time. Maybe you would want to do that in a virtual environment. Maybe you would want to stage that and have that experience that way. So while I do love virtual worlds, it's not a cure all. Like, if you can do it in person, do it in person. It's going to give you a much fuller experience when you do things in a virtual environment. And that's what we found too, as we were doing our research in virtual worlds. So the individuals, including myself, who are going to be presenting on the 25th, we were involved in a research project sponsored by K-20 educators. And we engaged in 4 months of building virtual worlds and engaging with our students and our wider community in schools to see, hey, how can we make this work? And why would we want to make this work? And what we found is when there was an in-person component, it made the online experiences so much more full and so much richer. Now, you can do it without that part, but if you have the opportunity to do both, why not? Why can't you do both? You should.
That's a great point. Like, you know, it's not about the tool, it's how you use it. And it's any tool, whether it's like a Bookit, a game, but it doesn't matter. Even if it was a board game or whatever, if you overuse it, you blow it out, right? Then it becomes not such a great thing. But when you use it appropriately at appropriate times, it doesn't have to be every single day. That's great. Because and the thing is, if you can experience it in real time, you want to go experience it.
Just go do it.
Yeah.
And we really do want to drive the idea. Like, we, as, like, when I say we, I mean the Royal Education we really do want to drive the idea that we ourselves and our students, we should be moving along the spectrum of consumer into creator. Because when we talk about wanting to bring people into this technology so they can build it for good, what we really want to do, like our quiet agenda here, I'm going to jump to the end of the book, guys, is we want them to be creators themselves. So the idea is, once you're introducing virtual environments like these, or any tool, you want to get them interested in, hey, how can I make it my own? How can I make it for myself in order to engage in that deeper learning, and hopefully to encourage the building of social good, and goods too that are free. I know we haven't talked about this yet, but there are some services out there that probably shouldn't be for sale, that probably should be free. So that's why a lot of the tools that we will be presenting are that way, because we really do believe that a lot of this should stay open source and be open source. Sorry, Facebook. Sorry.
Yeah. And that's, that's so many things. There's so many good tools that start out open source, and somebody gets it, wants to make it proprietary.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or, someone has a really good free tool and they get offered a boatload of money because the big company wants to squash it because they don't want that out there. we'd like to buy your program or buy your tool, and next thing you know, it's gone. That it's happened to a lot of tools I used to use, unfortunately. But we would like that. And students are great creators. They don't always create in an educational setting, but if you look at, and I was trying to explain this to my students, like you guys do, you make videos, you play these games, go into Minecraft, you make worlds, you make TikToks, you do this other stuff. You're already doing it. We're just not doing it in the classroom, but you have the skills. You just have to bridge from doing it in a social setting, whether it's appropriate or not, make it appropriate and do it in an educational setting. But you have those skills, just not applying them in that realm, if you will.
Yeah. And I have to say too, a big collective, hug to all you educators out there, because it is a losing battle competing for attention. It really is, because I know we talked about Facebook, but we have an awful lot of large technology companies that pour many, many dollars into understanding how to grab and maintain attention in apps. And it's really hard to compete with that when you feel like, hey, we're just a school and we're not dumping gazillion dollars into like a PR firm to say, hey, how can we keep their eyes on their work? So any tip or trick, I think that we can, I think you were alluding to this, Dom, any tip or trick that we can use and take from these very large companies that have invested all this time and money about how to maintain attention, why not try to use it if it's appropriate and it meets the needs of our students? Because it's hard. I mean, let's be honest, it's competing for attention. It's hard.
Yeah. I got into an argument with a teenager last week, and I'm not going to name names because I don't want my daughter to get mad at me when she finds out I'm talking about her on the podcast. Anyway, she goes, you obviously don't understand the point of social media. I'm like, to make money? Like, sell advertising? That's why it exists. It's not really for us we use it to communicate. And we talked about Twitter when it first came out as a tech coach, with emails being blocked around the state from district to district. We would use Twitter because nobody knew about it. Nobody knew how to block it yet. We use it for one way, but for the corporations, their end goal is to make money. It's not that that's a bad thing, but that's the purpose. And we forget that they're selling advertising. They're, pinpointing, getting our information out to other companies, making money that way. That's their purpose. We just happen to be using the other end of it. And we always tend to forget about that's why they created it, is to hook us in, because the more we watch, the more we click, the better it is for their stockholders, or if they're a private company, for the owner.
Yeah. And they're very good. They're very, very good at it. They really are. And I think too that on the other side of that coin, I think our teachers, now our new teachers, and also, our students who are coming up in schools are really appreciative too. I've seen that, of how hard we try and how we really do try to incorporate what is relevant and of interest and that can garner some attention. Although, I know that students love learning. Like the best way to connect with someone is to teach them something that they don't know, and students really do love that. And if you can do it in an interesting or different way, because, it's really hard for a lot of students to tackle their learning, more so now after COVID. And some students don't know why. I didn't have problems before, and now I do. I don't know why. Yeah. And students who are already struggling, forget about it. It's even harder. And so when you now can teach any student something, they're so appreciative. Like, thank you. Something got through. Oh my goodness. I think the same is true for our adult learners too. If you're in teacher preparation, teacher development, it's the same thing. Like yeah.
Yeah. Well, adults have the same issue being on, apps and social media as kids. You see the adults doing the same thing the kids do. So it's there, the distractions and everything else. One quick question going forward, because I burned up two of my questions in one, so I'm going to add one that isn't on the script.
Good. Oh, good. Let's see how I do.
Wait. This is where the check comes to me, Dom. All right, go.
With this and going into these virtual worlds, does it matter what type of device you're using? Is it agnostic, or do you have to be careful as to what type of device you're using when you try and access these areas?
Yeah, this is a really good question for virtual worlds that have a lot more to see. Like when we were watching the video, there was Frame VR and also Mozilla Hubs too. It's much easier if you're using a Chromebook or a laptop or a desktop because their processing power is a little better. So, but some of the virtual worlds that are only two-dimensional, iPads can work, cell phones can work, and sometimes too, if you're in a district that brings your own device, that might be a tool you prefer to choose.
I think she meant when she was saying computing power, Apple's what she was inferring.
Oh, is that what it was? Oh,
yeah.
We always have Microsoft versus Apple going here. So.
Oh,
Subliminal messages. I don't know what's going on there.
Eric comes into meetings with it's like a red, looks like a tablet with two white knobs, one on each end, and he tries to access things we're doing on Apple devices, and he shakes it and it goes away, and he gets frustrated. But
oh my gosh.
He's good.
Well, Eric, hey, listen, sign up on the 25th, and you're going to be pleasantly pleased. Yes.
Can you upgrade my Etch a Sketch? Is what it boils down to. That's what we need to know if I'm going to show up for this meeting, according to Dom's observations during board meetings. So anyway, no, this is awesome stuff. So honestly, platform agnostic. You're using the web. You're pulling in. It's interesting to hear about what you're saying about Chromebooks, because usually that's kind of like those are pushed towards the tail end kind of a deal. But they've gotten better over the years and stuff like that. So that's really cool. So a lot of awesome stuff. I mean, obviously, January, what is that date again? We got January 25th.
It's Wednesday.
Wednesday, 7 to 8 p.m. is going to be huge. All right. So great. So PAECT.org. Head to the website. Check out the calendar. You can sign up. You should be a free member or a premium member. And if you're not a member, just sign up real quick to be a free member. That's going to be huge. And I know you do have, it's not just you. There's some other co-hosts with you. So how did you meet these people that you're going to be presenting with?
Yeah, so these are my research cohort fellows. And we have Terrence, who is coming. He's going to be coming to us from Scotland. We have Jay, who's coming to us from Melbourne, Australia. We also have Michelle. She's in South Bend. She does teacher preparation. Who we're not seeing, we had Jabril, who was from Sierra Leone, and we had a whole host of other educators who joined us from around the world, because really what they wanted to figure out is, hey, how can we solve some of our local problems using some kind of virtual world? Like Jabril in Sierra Leone, he was really concerned about losing cultural artifacts. So due to apartheid and violence in his area, museums were being destroyed, monuments were being destroyed. They were losing a lot of their culture because of the conflict. And he wanted to log this somewhere. And a virtual learning environment was going to be it. He built a museum. It was so cool. So it's not just for education in a traditional sense. There is some very important record keeping that our future generation should know about. And these are just one of the many tools that you can think about using.
Nice. That's one of the things I try and have the kids, my classes, do some archival things with like StoryCorps and things like that. Sometimes, sometimes it works. Sometimes I have kids that don't, but I always explain, the stories my grandfather used to tell me and my friends when we would hang out with him. He passed those stories on, but he passed away before we had these tools. So my daughter will hear the stories, but she'll never hear his voice.
Yeah.
And even like we have pictures, we have slides. Eric said the old slide show carousels. We didn't have, my grandfather had a movie projector, but it wasn't sound. So they'll never hear that voice, never hear his voice telling the story. But, it's secondhand. And this would be a great way to archive that, I think.
Well, and think about languages too that are in danger of becoming extinct. There are many languages out there all over the world that could use a permanent home where people could come and listen to essentially their elders speaking a language maybe they don't know yet. It's just, there's so many wonderful opportunities for its use. And that's why we want to, like I said, that's why we want to bring you guys in so you can use your powers for good, for social good.
On a side note,
I know.
oh,
Go ahead, Dom.
Jess, you just got major props, as did the pod from Laura Fergassi.
Oh, that's my boss. That's El Presidente of the out-of-state region. Thanks, boss.
So I said, please type it in the chat so we can put it up on the screen. But in case she doesn't, she was giving you big props.
Thanks, Dom.
That's just trying to message you directly, going to the top of the line. What's that all about? So earlier we were talking about just, finding information, more information. So you shared this right here. So we have the Twitter.
Yes. Head on over to ED3DAO on Twitter, and you can see our Discord link is right there. You can join our community. Bam. Right there on the Twitters. We're also on LinkedIn as well at ED3DAO. ED3DAO. Come on down.
Yeah. Love it. I know I've gotten a lot of messages, just excited for that, the Immersive Learning Design workshop and different things going on there and learning more about it. And, that's just one of the big things. You can either steer away from it or lean in. And I think it's better if educators lean in, and I definitely think, as we were talking, this is definitely like, if you're looking to pursue some of this, you want to go to that workshop, get that more information. And I know sometimes in education, we'll jokingly say it's better to ask for forgiveness and permission. This is definitely one you want to make sure you go in with a partnership with your administrators, with your leadership, and working through and just work on doing what you can to make it a very successful endeavor. So this is awesome. Very cool.
Am I allowed to ask a question? I know we don't have much time left.
You sure may.
Well, yeah, as much time as you want.
So as I was rambling on and on, did you guys have any brainstorms about how you might use a virtual environment to teach something that just has fallen flat for you?
I didn't go that route, but we're trying to get a room in our high school converted into a museum.
Whoa,
and
cool.
This is the way to do that, because we haven't been able to get a definite yes or no. People want it to happen, but we're not getting permission to go in and start doing what we need to do. So this would be a way to approach that, and then let the students build the information within the room. We're actually, with this, if we get permission, have the kids build the room itself.
That would be so wonderful.
So that was my idea.
A+, Dom.
Thank you.
No gold stars. So, all right. So I am a Minecraft global ambassador. I do trainings with Minecraft. I love it. So I do a lot with that already. So there's different things, but one parallel I thought of. So it's not necessarily something new. It's not something that's gone flat. But for me, at the beginning, because the longest question we educators had for the longest time, when I had the opportunity to actually go to Redmond and meet the Minecraft team, was, when is it coming to Chromebook? Because again, like you were talking about the Chromebook piece, because we are one-to-one Chromebook, right? So one way I was able to utilize Minecraft in my classroom before Minecraft was available on Chromebooks was through the hour of code. But I was thinking, how cool would that be so I can let I can show other educators in my building who are maybe a little bit more tech nervous, tech hesitant. Hey, here's the hour of code. Your kids they're going to be coding the player to do. Steve's going to do this. Creepers are doing this. It's a safe environment. It's hour of code. It's very directed. Here's the modules. That would be kind of cool for an hour of code piece in one of these worlds, whichever one. Cool. I'll pick one of the others, but to come in, have them doing some coding, have them doing some work. It would be, in essence, like the lesson plans would be laid out. Here are your modules. Here are your things set up. The kids are going to go in. You're going into room A. You're going into room B. You're doing this activity. And it doesn't have to be necessarily like code. It could be that that informational writing, really breaking down like that computer thinking. Like, oh, here I need to do steps on how to do. When you went into that world, when you went into that room, how did you accomplish this task? And the kids could work on writing the steps of how they did it or how they could accomplish. Like, I don't know. So that's where my brain went to that concept. Like, how could you make it something that's approachable by somebody who may not feel comfortable with that?
Yeah, I'm getting escape room vibes
Yeah.
That'd be
Yeah.
so cool that they figure out whatever that process should be, or that solution. Then they get a code and they can enter it into a password protected door, and they make it into the next spot. Oh, that's what a good idea. And I'm really glad that you mentioned Minecraft. I have to give a shout out to Autcraft. I'm sure you've probably heard of these guys. They're a Minecraft server specifically for neurodiverse students, their families, and their friends. And they create a very safe and celebratory environment to just hang out and build. And I think that's another hidden plus about virtual worlds. For folks who might be a little uncomfortable with direct eye contact, for example, that's a non-issue in worlds like this. If you don't want to have your camera on, if you're represented as an avatar, guess what? It's a non-issue. I see that you're moving. I see that you're doing stuff. You're doing great. Turn your camera off. That there are just some of these pluses that are really harder to kind of pay out on in real life. And so it's nice that you have both of those options if you need it.
Yeah, it's awesome.
That's nice. We talked about that with the one lady I was in class with in Second Life, that she performed. She didn't like performing live in person, but she would go into Second Life and perform, and she had a great voice. It was, it was interesting.
Yeah, the skills that you can unlock.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's so cool. That's so cool.
Well, it's funny you bring up with Second Life. I know, like, I'm pretty sure my wife would go to the Jimmy Buffett concerts that he had a Margaritaville in Second Life.
Oh,
and
gosh,
he would go, fly in, have a seat on a swing, and just listen to the concert. And it was him playing on that other side. So that's interesting. So it just brings back those memories. So
oh, wow.
That's wild. And the other one that pops in my head would be our population, our autistic population. Some different students that maybe can't deal when there's a pep rally or there's a larger gathering of bodies. Not that you would be able to have that piece where they'd be able to watch and be a part of it, but in that virtual world.
Yeah,
whether you would do it old school wide or whatever, but that'd be interesting. Then they can control that volume but still be there. In the metaverse.
Yeah, and I also think too that really helps adults, who are being trained how to help. That really helps widen the understanding of what pro-social engagement can be. We don't have to necessarily shoehorn or force opportunities for engagement when we can be pretty sure it's gonna crash and burn. But we can still provide that access in a way that's meaningful, in a way that makes sense and meets someone, a student or even a teacher, meets them where they are. And that's the meat and potatoes of it, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh yeah. So real quick to throw this up on the screen because you mentioned it, I want to make sure we give them the shout out, the autocraft.com website and what they have going on here and stuff. So that's pretty cool stuff. That's neat. They got going on. All right. I want to make sure I just do that.
Yeah, those guys they're wonderful. They're amazing. And they keep their community pretty simple too. Be nice and have fun. And those are kind of the rules. Be nice and have fun. And if not, well, sorry. Come back when you can be nice.
Yeah.
So
it's fairly simple to follow those rules.
Well, sure. And Tom, when you were asking, hey, how do we get students in there? I mean, the simpler, the better. Lots of opportunities for modeling, too. So if teachers are already in those places and they can kind of model that a little bit.
That's awesome. Very cool. Well, I truly appreciate you being here. I definitely, hey Dom, we could have done this without her. You know what I'm saying? Like,
oh,
had to bring in the big guns for this one. Let me tell you. Wow.
Thank you for letting me be your first guest of 2023.
We appreciate you being here because I had a bunch of like Google Scholar articles I was trying to read through, and it'd have been like Ben Stein in Fast Time or Bueller. And then the next step, do you understand? Step 2.
Yeah, that's exactly what's going to happen on the 25th. Just kidding.
He was reaching out to the AI to come up with the questions for you. It was a really scary moment. He was having some meltdowns. It's okay.
Yes.
So, the Pittsburgh Ease was about ready to come out. That would have been interesting. So
and for those that are coming, bring your questions too, even the hard ones. Like, Is it safe for my students to use? Like, bring those questions. These are questions we want to talk about and we want to answer with you, because the answer will be different for everyone. That's okay. That's why, as technology integration specialists, that's why we have so many options and so many choices. You don't need to learn them all, but isn't it good to know there might be one or two that's good for you?
Yeah.
Awesome stuff. All right. Well, thank you. I truly appreciate it. So
Thank you, Jess.
we got @barberification is the Twitter handle. Is there any, I guess, your PACT email address? I believe you would have, we can put up on the screen later if they need to reach out to you there.
Oh, absolutely.
And yeah, so that's awesome. So thank you so much. We really appreciate you spending the time with us and the listeners and,
Yes.
and helping make Dom and I feel smarter tonight.
Yeah, I learned a lot. I can't vouch for Verno because,
He never does.
He uses bricks for computers. So.
Oh, well, thank you guys. I appreciate you having me on, and I appreciate you giving something new a try.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right. Well, like I said, unfortunately, speaking of being smarter, Dom forgot to get the M&Ms, and so the virtual green room's kind of empty right now.
I got them, but I ate them. That was
Sorry,
that
that
was
the
problem.
I forgot. I wasn't going to tell everybody about your
M&M,
inability to stop yourself from eating them all.
This is our second show of the night because we had a really good show before we actually started the show.
That's true.
It just has so much information. Check out the presentation, the webinar next Wednesday.
Yes. All right. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of your evening. Enjoy that. Is the weather good in Florida? We always talk about our weather here.
Oh, it's a little chilly. It's about 62 degrees, you see. Ooh, I'm going to put on my turtleneck later.
Now
cold.
Now we get you thrown out of autocraft.
Be nice or leave.
That's it.
Yes.
All right. Have a great evening.
Take care, Jess.
Thanks.
Right, oh, amazing. Good stuff.
That was
it
was a great episode.
Yeah.
And we're not done.
I don't even know. I would say, we were hitting like the 40-minute mark. I'm like, okay, there's still steam. We're rolling. Like, it's good. It's good. So I guess we should just kick it right into our tech notes. What do you think?
I think that would work.
All right, brother. Here we go. All right, man. Let's let you kick it off tonight.
All right. For this tech notes, I am going to the dark side. I'm going to stick with yes, I see the look on your face. We are going into the realm of math and science.
Math and science. All right.
It is expii.com, EXPII. It is a free website. It is based upon the Pennsylvania state standards. It is free help for students, educators, parents. You can sign up. If you sign up for an account and log in, it tracks your work. You can build upon your work. If you don't want to sign in and log up, you can go in and just search topics, but it doesn't save what you've done in the past. Let me go back here into my notes because there's a lot. I actually had this up for the last time. It's created by Po Shen Lo. He is a Carnegie Mellon professor. He's also, I never knew this existed. He is the coach of the United States math team. They won. He's the first team. He coached the first team to ever win a gold medal in international mathematic competitions. So he's a local guy. I've met him in person. He's a fantastic person. Met him at Tretzi, our local regional ed tech conference here in Pittsburgh. He's a teacher down at Carnegie Mellon. He's a math coach. He set this up. It's free. He intends to keep it free to help people out because, as we talked earlier, you do have, as in education, limited funding. So this is a way to help people out. It covers pre-algebra, algebra 1, and biology. They're all based on the Pennsylvania state standards. And they are working out on a number of other subjects, developing it based on the standards. to help students. You can go in as a parent. We've had students in our school go look it up and go in to get help on the different subjects. It's a great resource. And I've used it with my daughter was younger when she was working on things. I'm not certain. So I would go in and give myself refresher courses in XPI to work on things just because it's been 30, 40 years since I've done some of these math problems. So it's, need a refresher myself once in a while, but you can go in and check it out. It's a great resource. Good team of educators, and it's a Pennsylvania resource locally here in Pittsburgh. So
nice. That's good stuff.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll go tech note number 2. So I love, watching or reading my blogs. I feel like doing a lot online, whether it be on phone, whether it be on the computer. I feel like my long form reading has really taken a hit. So I don't necessarily dig into the deep dive books or different things, but I'll read those short snippets. Again, we talked about Feedly before. I pull all these feeds in. I read the different things. I'll kick stuff out to you. I annoy all my friends in text messages and tweets and in Slack and everywhere. Everywhere I could bug people, I bug people. So one is a oldie but a goodie. I just wanted to throw out there. Just to be different here. Reddit. Reddit came out many, many, many moons ago. And again, with everything, it's with all the good, there's all the bad. There's a lot of different things on there, but you can search up anything. I mean, when I went with my new the fold phone, found a Reddit channel, I was able to research different things. We were looking at using our StreamYard platform that we use for this. There's a Reddit channel. Was able to learn a lot of things. We were looking at how do we make this better? How do we make that better? The possibilities are limitless. There's always somebody out there who's just making a channel, dumping stuff that all these people are coming in and dumping their things in there. So reddit.com, reddit.com. And again, when you go in, you can set up, I'm not logged in now. I just have, just in generically, just type in education. You can type in technology, anything that math, science, social studies, geography, whatever you want. But really it's a great talk about almost like that open source concept. It's open sourced in the sense that it's all these people that are generally putting information in there, and sharing and links out and all that information.
It's almost like a short form wiki, if you will.
Oh yeah. Yeah. From back in the day, man.
Yeah.
Back in the old school. Yeah. So that's my tech note. If you have not, or if you've forgotten about it, maybe fall back in love with Reddit, go back in there to find that different information. Yeah.
It is an app on most platforms for phones too. So, and tab.
Yeah. So a lot of good stuff there. Yeah. So as we were closing out our show here, I'm repping my Expand Your Tribe KTI, looking at our pre-conference we had a few years ago. Yep, you got your KTI, and we do have a pre-con coming up this year. How are the steps going, Dom?
Doing okay. They're not. I've slacked off a little bit with Tretzy. I'm still getting around 10,000 steps, but I'm not up to the 14,000 that I was. So
okay,
I should have gone in and that was my goal, was to check and see what my steps were. Might have to do a little blurb show and do an update on the race of the regions. But we were in competition. We were hanging tough. I think we only had 2 or 3 people from the region doing it. But whenever I updated a week ago, we were close. We were it's not real time. You have to go in and type in your data. So we went from no one had put their data in yet. Once we put our data in, we were up towards the top, but I haven't checked it in a week. We had a Tretzy was this week, which is a great regional conference out here. A lot of KTIs and a lot of PAECT members were there. Some new ones, some old blasts from the past, old friends I connected with. So we hung out there. Then we did a little post Tretzy meetup at Top Golf. Went and hit some golf balls and hung out and kind of decompressed about the day there. Great conference. Looking forward to next year's. We have 2 more conferences coming up this year, and actually even a third. We're working with Western Pennsylvania Teachers of English and Language Arts to do a regional conference out this way for the western part of the state and anyone from the eastern part of the state that would like to come out. So there's a lot going on.
Okay.
And we just kind of decompress, bounce ideas around, and go from there.
Yeah. Yeah. So as you look like, so that January 25th, that's the Immersive Learning Design. So it's
Yes.
a little different change of name. That's what's going on that Jesse was talking about. So that's going to be awesome. I got to get myself signed up for that. And then February, how sweet it is. We got Pete and C at Kalahari in the Pocono area. At Pete and C, we will have a PAECT meetup. I believe that there's going to be different meet and greets throughout the week from regional directors to meet up with different members of the organization. So a lot of great stuff going on there. February 21st, Heat Up Your Assessment Game, virtual workshop hosted by the Northeast. And then South Central's got a Passionate About Pete virtual event, kind of like closing out Pete, those who were there, those who wanted to be there, all talking, sharing, giving that information. So an exciting docket of things coming.
And
PAECT.
There is the book study going on right now too. Just started this week. You don't have to attend every session. In fact, the book study is going to be next week. It's going to be from 8 to 9. It's going to be after the immersive learning session.
Okay.
To spill the beans, Richard Collada, the author of the book we are studying, he will be attending the book study.
Nice.
So we have the author, and he's also CEO of ISTE. He will be there live, virtually, talking about the book. So that's something good. And the nice thing I like about the book studies, I know there's 2 more books people want to have book studies going on after this. The book studies, you don't have to attend every session. If you're not comfortable going in and talking about it, you can still hang out and lurk. It's a great way to get information, great way to get ideas and connect. As we were talking with the immersive learning, we deferred to somebody who knew what they were talking about, because frankly, it's intimidating to me because it's just something hard for me to get my head wrapped around. And that's what PAECT is about, is getting people in the room, and you don't have to speak to participate. You can kind of sit back, take it in, comment on the side. You don't have to be in front of the room all the time. So definitely
almost like that Ed Camp concept, right? The smart person in the room is the room, right?
Yes.
Awesome. Well, this has been an unbelievable show. A lot of awesome stuff going on. So I truly appreciate it. Our next PAECT pod will be post Pete and C. We didn't have to get
actually,
up there, go
live from.
That's right. Oh my word. Totally blanking on that one, Dom.
I know. Live from Pete and C.
Yeah. Gosh, do you have the date and time for that? I'm blanking on it.
I'm blanking on it too. I got to pull it up.
We could push that out, but make sure that you're doing that. And while we're looking up that information, let's go ahead and thank our sponsors for sponsoring PAECT and also the PAECT Pod. PAECT and the PAECT Pod would like to take this opportunity to say thank you to our corporate council sponsors. Thank you to ClassLink, Max Cases, Go Guardian, and Bloom. Thank you to Sam Labs, DRC, and EduSpire. We appreciate all these organizations partnering with PAECT to help us to advance the education technology in Pennsylvania, which in essence helps students. We look forward to seeing you at P&C 2023. Thank you so much to the listeners. PAECT is a phenomenal organization because our members are amazing. All right, I can't emphasize that last line enough, right?
Right.
We're as good as our members, and our members are amazing. All right, you pull that up, Dom?
Yep, we are Tuesday, February 14th, 2023, from 10:30 a.m. to 11:20 a.m. Creation to Curation, podcasting in your class. So we will be Tuesday, February 14th.
All right, a little Valentine's Day action for the pod. So make sure if you're not attending, if you're able to pop on there. I know a lot of the teachers are going to be in class, but feel free to put any comments, post things, email us with different thoughts that you have. Where do you like to pull your information? How are you using podcasts in the classroom? We're going to give you our thoughts. We'd love to get your thoughts. So that's amazing.
Yes. And, follow us on Twitter, PAECT Pod. And, we also have at D Salvucci, at E_Verno, at PAECT, of at SWPAECT. All the regions have their own Twitter handles. Follow us, get information about what's going on in our regions and around the state and around the globe. So,
Yeah, most definitely. So we truly appreciate everyone listening. We appreciate Jess being our first guest of 2023 and all the guests that we've had. And, we truly appreciate everybody listening and sticking with us. So, ladies and
yes.
gentlemen, you've listened to the PAECT Pod, the voice of EdTech of Pennsylvania.
And beyond.
Have a lovely evening. Enjoy the rest of your week.
Have a good night, everybody. Catch you from Pete and C.